the Hanford Reservation and radioactive tales. This one came from when the Hanford nuclear processing site facility in the Tri-Cities area of Washington began processing uranium and other materials for nuclear fuel. The original search was for weapons material, and then we figured out that, hey, maybe we could make this stuff blow up slower, get it to boil water for us, and we'll make commercial reactors. So this was there is a reason the nuclear plant, commercial nuclear plant up there is sitting on that reservation, because these were bartered systems. You and I paid and did all the sciences, all the engineering, all the grunt work, and some for-profit thing called Wall Street has since taken reins there, because it's profit centers, how to move money. So those two commercial reactors sitting there are subject to the vagaries of commercial nuclear. When it gets too hot, they have to turn the generators down on the Columbia River so that they do not overheat the water and kill all of the fish from where that generating station is out into the Pacific Ocean. This is miles and miles of pretty important river to the nation, important to food stores in the Pacific Oceans even. Food stores for native tribes that used to own the place. So, yeah, those commercial reactors are up there. The vagaries of them are public. You can go find what I'm speaking to. It's not a secret. And on top of that, so this was a nuclear tale. This was a nuclear tale. Those 5 military commissioned reactors were single pass reactors. That is a huge problem. If anything goes wrong in the fuel processing cycle and the materials escape into the cooling water around them, because you can't contain it, it's going to go out into the river. Yeah, and there's sediment ponds and some others going on, but it's just not that easy. So, this was before all these dams were built, or while dams were being built along the Columbia as well. Those single pass reactors released radionuclides. In this case, particular place, plutonium. I'm going to use that one because this is what was identified in the sciences, and it is the deadliest element that we know. It's actually not the deadliest, but it is just nasty stuff. No good comes from a particle of plutonium. Well, so what happened? During that time, there was a large institution guiding the research and the knowledge, accumulating the knowledge gained from all this research. It was a Battelle Institute. This was typical to regions. Different institutes tried to manage all this knowledge, human knowledge that were piling up in books somewhere. Anyway, one day, up at the Hanford site, engineers coming into work set off the Geiger counters at the entrance gate to the plant. Coming into the plant, not leaving. They hadn't been contaminated in the plant. They were contaminated, shown contaminated after having a long weekend. The long weekend, these engineers went out to the coast, miles downstream, and ate oysters from the local oyster beds, miles away, barely connected to the Columbia River, these beds. And yet, there it was. A nuclear processing facility couldn't let engineers back in the plant until they figured out what was going on and where that human contamination, where that plutonium in those oysters so far downstream came from. This was decades ago. This is a story from decades ago. This is how pollution travels in an ecosystem. This is what these education taught us. This was not in one book. So basically, back in that day, eating oysters from some of the tributaries along Washington and Oregon was polluted. That's the word for it, polluted. That's the big term for it. And mostly what this channel is about, doing better.